She stood in the narrow aisle of the supermarket, her fingers trembling as she counted the coins in her palm for the third time. Pennies, nickels, a few worn-out coins that had passed through too many hands, each one cold, heavy with meaning. Her baby stirred in the thin blanket against her chest, letting out a small, hungry whimper that cut deeper than any sound in the store. Aisha lowered her head, embarrassed, as the cashier watched quietly. The total glowed red on the screen, $18.47. She swallowed. Her coins added up to $18.10. Just 37 cents short. Aisha's shoulders sagged. She looked down at her baby boy, Amir, his tiny fist clutching the fabric of her worn sweater as if he already knew how fragile their world was. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I'll put one back." The cashier nodded gently, already reaching for the can of baby formula. There was no judgment in her eyes, only tired understanding. She had seen this before. What Aisha didn't know was that someone was standing directly behind her. A tall man in a charcoal coat. Polished shoes. A presence that didn't belong in the cramped aisle of discounted groceries. His name was Daniel Cross, CEO of one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the country. A man who closed million-dollar deals before lunch, whose name appeared in business magazines, whose life was built on numbers far larger than 37 cents. And yet, at that moment, his entire world narrowed to the sight of a young woman clutching her baby, choosing between feeding him today or saving face. Daniel watched as she slowly removed the second can of formula and placed it on the counter. Her hands shook. She turned her face away, blinking rapidly, fighting tears she couldn't afford to shed in public. Something twisted sharply in his chest. He stepped forward. "Please don't," he said quietly. Aisha froze. She turned, startled, eyes wide. What?" Daniel pulled out his wallet, already placing a bill on the counter. "Keep both. And add whatever else you need." Her face flushed. "No, I can't." "You can," he said, firmly but kindly. "And you should." The cashier glanced between them, then smiled softly and rang everything up. Aisha's lips parted, but no words came out. Pride battled desperation, and desperation won. Tears spilled over despite her efforts. "Thank you," she whispered, holding Amir closer. "You don't know what this means." Daniel met her gaze, and something in her eyes struck him like a memory he had buried too deep. "Those eyes. Why didn't you ever tell me?" he asked, the words leaving his mouth before he could stop them. Aisha stiffened. "I'm sorry." Her voice trembled, confusion mixing with fear. Daniel stared at her, searching her face like it held a missing piece of his life. "It's me, Daniel." Her breath hitched. The store seemed to fade away. "No," she said softly. "That's not possible." But it was. Years ago, before the suits, before the headlines, before the money, there had been Daniel, a struggling scholarship student working late nights at a cafe. And Aisha, the quiet girl who studied literature, who shared her notes with him when he fell asleep in class, who believed in him when no one else did. They had loved each other in a small, hopeful way. A love built on dreams and borrowed time. Until life intervened. Daniel remembered the last time he saw her, standing in the rain outside her apartment, arguing about a future neither of them could afford. "I can't build a life on promises," she had said back then, tears streaking her face. "I need stability, Daniel." And he had walked away, too proud, too hurt to look back. He never knew. She never told him she was pregnant. Now she stood before him, thinner, older, carrying a child whose dark eyes mirrored his own. "Is he?" Daniel asked, his voice barely steady. Aisha looked down at Amir, then back up. Her silence was answer enough. "Yes," she said. "He's yours." The words shattered something inside him. The cashier cleared her throat softly, sensing the weight of the moment. "Your receipt," she said, sliding it across. Daniel paid without thinking, his mind racing. Outside, the air was cold. Aisha stepped aside, adjusting Amir's blanket, clearly preparing to leave. Escape, before questions could tear open wounds she had worked so hard to close. "Wait," Daniel said. "Please." She hesitated. "I didn't know," he said. "If I had known." "You left," Aisha replied, not angrily, but with quiet truth. "And I didn't want to be another burden in your life." Daniel ran a hand through his hair. "I would have come back." She met his eyes. "You didn't." The words stung because they were true. Silence stretched between them, filled only by Amir's soft breathing. "Where are you staying?" Daniel asked. Aisha shook her head. "That's none of your concern." "It is," he said. "He's my son." Her grip tightened on the baby. "I raised him alone. I'll keep doing that." Daniel stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Aisha, you were counting coins to feed him. That broke her." Tears fell freely now. "I'm doing my best." "I know," he said gently. "But you don't have to do it alone anymore." She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw sincerity, not pity. Still, fear lingered. "You live in a world I don't belong to. Then I'll meet you in yours," Daniel said. "Just give me the chance." Days passed. Then weeks. Daniel didn't disappear. He showed up with groceries, never flashy, always practical. He learned how to hold Amir, awkward at first, then naturally. He listened to Aisha's stories without interrupting, without trying to fix everything with money. Slowly, trust rebuilt itself, not as lovers, but as two people bound by a child and a past they couldn't erase. One evening, as Amir slept between them on the couch, Aisha finally asked, "Why now?" Daniel exhaled. "Because I almost walked past you that day. I almost ignored it." She nodded. "Most people do." "I won't," he promised. And he kept that promise. He arranged childcare without making her feel small. He helped her return to her studies. He didn't rush love, didn't demand forgiveness. One night, months later, as Amir took his first unsteady steps toward him, Daniel felt something shift forever. This wasn't about wealth or power. It was about showing up. About the coins that once fell short, and the quiet strength of a woman who never stopped trying. Years later, Aisha would tell Amir that his father found them in a grocery store aisle. That sometimes, life changes not with grand gestures, but with 37 cents, a can of formula, and a choice to care. And Daniel would always remember the moment that redefined success for him. Not the day his company went public, but the day he turned around, and stayed.